Welcome back to TYT Sports, talking more. Actually, we're talking boxing for the first time today. Because we've been talking a lot about the UFC. Make sure to check out the Ronda Rousey clips, the tweets, the memes, all the good stuff regarding that. Joined by Shane Faison from fightTIPS. Make sure to check out his channel as well. Like, favorite, subscribe. All that good stuff as well. Francis Maxwell on the end.
From TYT Sports, like, favorite, and subscribe. All that good stuff.
All the good stuff. As well as Jason Rubin over on this end. Canelo Alvarez versus Miguel Cotto is bound to be a fight where we truly don't know the outcome going into it. Following the betting lines on it, following where Vegas is putting their money, and it's tough because these two fighters, and it's to me also, by the way, it's a little strange how this hasn't been hyped up more. Maybe because of the UFC continuously putting out a slightly better product when it comes to a fight card in general, and a lot of the Mayweather-Pacquiao being a major letdown in terms of a fight, quote-unquote, fight of the century, leading into it. So, but for the boxing enthusiasts out there and the boxing fans, this is a mouth-watering matchup that we've been waiting for. Golovkin versus Lemieux was a great matchup as well. Granted, Golovkin really just beat him down. And the other outcome of this fight, Canelo versus Cotto, is they're likely getting a nice date, wine, dine, maybe in the ring together with Gennady Golovkin.
Doesn't sound like a date I want to be on.
Right, I don't want to be anywhere near Golovkin. Really within any 100 yards of a man's, if he can reach, I don't want to be near him. Because he's got a lot of power. But so in terms of Miguel Cotto versus Canelo Alvarez, I think there's a lot of different storylines in this fight. One, we look at it as, from some angles, that is this Miguel Cotto's must-win fight to really secure his legacy. He's a great fighter. He's a Hall of Fame fighter by the end of his career, regardless what happens in this fight. But is this one that the aging Cotto is going to need to secure that legendary status in boxing? And/or we look at Canelo Alvarez, who's on the younger side, would have a lot of time to make up for a loss if he were to win. Granted, he's had a lot of professional fights under his belt. Going into it, we know there should be some fireworks. They're two different fighters, like for sure. When we look at Canelo Alvarez versus James Kirkland, we knew someone was getting knocked out. I don't know if we can say the same for this fight. Shane, I'm curious, out of these storylines, what are you looking forward to seeing most?
Well, based on what you were saying, I don't know. I think he's already got that legendary status.
He does. I don't want to sell him short.
Right. But if he wins against Canelo, it's that much more.
Right, and because I also look at just real quick thing, if he gets knocked out, that's what people are going to remember last from Cotto, is that, oh, he was face down on the mat, which I don't think is fair, but generally the mass populace is wrong about stacking up fighters.
Here's what I think. If I had to make a guess on what's going to happen with this fight, either Cotto's going to get knocked out, or Canelo wins, or Cotto wins decision. Is what I think, because let's look at it. I mean, I was studying the fighters. Before that, I was thinking definitely Cotto. Cotto's going to win it. More experience. And I think most people are saying Cotto, at least people who, people like Sugar Shane Mosley in an interview said Cotto. A bunch of people are saying Cotto based on his experience, his ability to adapt. When I started following or studying each of the clips of their latest fights, like both of them fought Austin Trout. Everyone keeps talking about how they both fought Mayweather, but
it's not a good fight.
It's hard. It's hard because Mayweather makes people look bad. And he's a very challenging guy to fight. But someone like Austin Trout, who's also a great fighter, the outcomes were very different. I don't know if you guys are familiar with these fights, but Canelo dropped Trout, had trouble with him, but beat him, and Austin Trout beat Cotto and beat him pretty unanimously. So what I think is Canelo is a very strong, very powerful puncher, right? He knocked guys out. Kirkland was still one of the worst knockouts I've ever seen. I'm surprisurprised that guy's head is still attached to his neck.
Not the only one who makes that reference, Francis.
No, you said 8 times his chin went across state lines.
Jaw.
Same thing. Chin. Jaw. Either or.
The whole thing. Mandible.
Without getting into, I understand a lot of the analytics on it, and I think that it's going to be a phenomenal fight to just appeal to everyone. If you're a fan of boxing, you need to watch this fight. Like, you're going to see Canelo Alvarez stand toe-to-toe with Cotto. You're going to see punches thrown. You're not going to see what many people had been talking about. With obviously, you can't compare to Pacquiao, Mayweather. If people who do, they don't thoroughly understand boxing, because I think everyone, especially who had followed boxing for a while, knew exactly what was going to happen in Mayweather Pacquiao. That was a given. This fight, I think, is what's intriguing me is it's a little unpredictable. You're saying there with Cotto, of course. I agree. I think it's already achieved that legendary status with the first Puerto Rican ever to win 4 titles across different weight classes. You know what I mean? He's of legendary status, but that's what I love about these guys. They carry a enormous following, Puerto Rican, Mexican following. That, to me, is a mouthwatering clash in its own, because Canelo Alvarez, what I think about when I see him fighting is, I don't see a lot of adjustments to his game, right? But what you just mentioned there about Cotto with his ability to adjust, how will Cotto respond to an aggressive fighter? Like, we've seen him fight aggressive fighters in the past, but Canelo Alvarez, of course, has a bit between his teeth when he knows he can go in to seek a knockout. You see him go for it. You rarely see him, I would say, tone back his attacking style in the ring based on someone else who's a good defensive fighter, as we know Cotto is. But how do you think he'll respond to someone like Alvarez coming in and taking an aggressive start to the fight and maybe looking for that early knockout?
I mean, if he's throwing high-volume punches, if he's punching a lot, I think that's how we could see the knockout. That's how Pacquiao knocked out Cotto. That's how he dropped him. It was just a lot of punches. It overwhelmed him, caught him when he was throwing a punch, and that dropped him. I mean, the reason why I'm leaning towards Canelo is because he has a better jaw than Cotto.
That's
I don't think I've ever seen him even staggered, let alone dropped. Never been knocked out. Cotto, on the other hand, has been.
Yep.
So I really think if Cotto keeps moving, because Canelo isn't good against punching.
No,
good against a guy who's moving. He's great on a heavy bag. He's great on mitts.
Yeah.
And if he's got a guy up against the ropes, he throws a crazy from the hips punches and knocks people out. But if Cotto keeps moving, maybe even moving backwards a little bit, which we don't see him do very often. But now that he's with Freddie Roach, he's a different fighter. He's a evolved fighter.
Of course.
I think he could. I think if he fights smart, fights defensively, and I think he could take the win. Yeah. But I'm going to lean towards Canelo.
Yeah. I want Canelo to win, and I'm not against Cotto for that reason. I just think in terms of down the road for boxing, for seeing Canelo, I'm looking at it as the who's going to fight Golovkin. I'm very excited to watch this fight.
Yeah.
But the Canelo versus Golovkin fight, that's a lot of power.
That's Optimus Prime versus, I don't know anyone else.
The guy from Pacific Rim, if you will, from the two. It's basically two giant robots fighting each other. Granted, when you watch Cotto fight, as you both just highlighted throughout this clip, there is a lot of experience there. You mentioned, Shane, that we've seen Cotto knocked out before, and we question his chin. I wonder now, working with Freddie Roach, if he is going to improve that lateral movement, if he's going to really. I'm watching the feet this whole fight, because I think that's going to tell the story of this fight.
I agree 100%.
And I think in terms of the pace, Cotto has the experience to set it, but I think a big question going into it is, does he have the speed to really control it for 12 rounds?
Well, that endurance, especially with someone like Canelo, who's gonna who likes to set the pace early. That's why when you just mentioned there, like, it was astounding to me when he was fighting Kirkland that he at times tried to stand toe-to-toe with Canelo, who, as soon as you give him that opportunity...
Kirkland got a few good shots in there. And he has a chin. Because he took so much.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, he was fearless in his act to throw with Canelo, right? So I don't think that Cotto can do that. Because, one, I just don't think that it's possible. You need to be able to take a punch, undoubtedly so. And Kirkland, who can take a punch, you've seen what happened to him when he left himself open to someone like Canelo who can throw that, right? So you know what I mean? So Cotto, of course, has got that experience, and I think he's got the ability to maneuver around the ring and frustrate Canelo. But I just think that, like, I just see that aggression, I see that endurance from him, and I just want to ask, do you think that if Cotto can he keep that up for numerous rounds? Like, we know he's in great shape. We know that he's getting on a little bit in his career. I still think he's got the ability to do that. But with that aggression coming from Canelo, do you think he's able to sustain that for each round?
I don't know. My prediction is 7th, 8th round knockout for Canelo.
Yeah, which I mean,
not many people are going to agree with me, but I
like that.
I agree. I agree that I think Canelo's going to win. I just don't know.
Yeah, I could just see it. I don't know.
I want to use my head on this one, and it's tough. I want Canelo to win. I think if Canelo's getting a knockout, I think it's going to happen in the 4th or 5th round, and it'll be early on. And that's just a matter of, I know, what we've seen in the past with Canelo is his strongest punches are coming in those first 3-4 rounds. And if he can land as many of them as possible, and as we've mentioned, or actually the other way around would be Cotto frustrating Canelo in terms of just outsmarting him around the ring. If not, I think the more likelihood, and I don't think it's a unanimous decision, but I think it's win by decision from Cotto. That's what I'm going to stick with after 12 rounds. I think it's going to be a great fight, and I hope it's a great fight. This should be a Fight of the Year candidate if everything goes right.
Right.
And like we've mentioned, there's a date with Golovkin on the other end.
And that's why.
So I don't know how much one of these guys really wants to win.
Well, that's why I'm
knowing, like, all right, let's get back to the gym and go fight a Kazakh freaking monster.
Do you think that's a fair assumption? Is that, I mean, despite the fact that we're not leaning any way towards Cotto, we understand his magnitude and how amazing he is. What I'm talking about just from his boxing stance, like, we're not undermining him. There's no doubt that he can definitely win this fight. But I guess I'm thinking from an optimistic standpoint, who would I want to be able to fight Gennady Golovkin in the next fight. And I think I just want to see Gennady Golovkin fight Canelo. Like, do you think that for boxing that's the best stance?
There's a chance either way it happens.
I'm just thinking from like that way of someone winning a fight and winning the ability to fight someone like Gennady Golovkin, who would want to see fight someone of Canelo's stature as well.
Am I wrong in saying that Triple G didn't bring in a lot of pay-per-view?
He
matches,
brought in,
right?
well, no, he didn't bring in a lot, but he brought in enough that boxing was happy with it. It was his first major show at the Garden, which he's fought out before. There was a major turnout for Golovkin fans at the Garden.
I've read something in comparison to Floyd and Tyson. It was much
no,
lower.
yeah, and that's what we were talking about.
Neither will Cotto Canelo be compared to Floyd.
Right,
I mean, Floyd versus Berto was a pay-per-view nightmare.
Yeah.
But obviously Floyd versus Pacquiao was, record-breaking.
Yeah.
And that's what we were talking about as well. I don't know if that's anything. I mean, we understand from a boxing standpoint, we understand how fascinating it is to watch Gennady Golovkin fight, but it's the persona that goes along with him. He's almost like a gentle giant.
I love him.
Yes,
I'm just saying.
And that's what I'm saying. So that's why I think from neutral fans, like we were saying, you put Gennady Golovkin in a room with 25, 30 sports fans from across. I don't know if a lot of them pick him out.
He's the biggest fan there, though.
He's just that's the thing. He's gonna blend in, and that's why we were talking about how Apple have kind of utilized him as that kind of figure that they want to help put him on that up to that stature where he should be. Because don't get me wrong, boxing fans will know who Gennady Golovkin is. Neutral fans, the way you would watch, where you would even notice Cotto in the street or Canelo. I think that combining those figures with such a huge following with Gennady Golovkin will be a massive fight, I think, for fans watching.
Who wins?
Oh, I don't know.
Canelo, Triple G, who wins?
Oh,
put you on the spot.
You gotta root for Triple G.
Triple G.
I gotta root for Triple G. But
body blows, but it would be like Rocky fighting Drago with how many blows are just thrown at each other, and that would be just phenomenal for me. It's like that would be the only fight that I could actually say, just moving away all journalistic value of being a boxing correspondent, just be like they're just gonna launch massive blows at each other. That's what I think, and I would love to see it.
Rocky, which accurately sums up exactly how boxing is like.
One day I'm hoping it will be. All right, well, what do you think? I mean, if you're going to put us on the spot.
Yeah.
Well, who do you think's got a better chance? This is a different question. Who do you think's got a better chance of beating Gennady Golovkin out of Cotto and Canelo if they go into it?
That is a good
Tyson.
question.
I know. It was a good question.
I don't know. I would say probably Canelo, but and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I still think Triple G would win. And I wouldn't have said that up until I saw him fight Lemieux.
Yeah.
That really impressed me. That showed that he still has his boxing experience from all his, 200, 300 amateur matches.
Yeah.
And doesn't just throw those power punches. He still can work his jab. He still has good head movement and sets up the power punches. So I have a newfound respect for him after that fight.
You gotta love any boxer who is unafraid to fight anybody.
Yeah.
Literally anybody, and he says it in his press conferences. And he's getting better at speaking English too, which I love because he's showing even more personality in the ring, outside the ring, in the press conferences. It should be exciting. I can't wait for Canelo versus Cotto, though. It's this Saturday in Las Vegas. Comment below with your predictions in terms of who you think will win between Miguel Cotto and Canelo Alvarez. That's Francis. That's Shane. I'm Jason. Make sure to check us out on TYT Sports. Check Shane out over at fightTIPS YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe, like, favorite. As we've mentioned, we'll see you next time.